Our next speaker today is David Whitehead. David is somebody that I've gotten to know in the recent history, and he's inspired me in many different ways. He is a father, a radio host, a researcher, all of that good stuff. And he's also very uniquely qualified to talk about something that I don't know of anybody who's really put it in the way I hope that he will put it today, or that he has put it in the research that I know of his. It's a martial arts background, and he'll get into it, but it's essentially the way of the truth warrior, which is his talk today, and I am really looking forward to this talk, all the way from British Columbia, Canada. We are so glad to have him. Ladies and gentlemen, David Whitehead.
All right. Can you guys hear me at the back? No? Okay. How's everybody doing this morning? Everybody's awake? Ready to go? It's my first time here in Philadelphia, and I'm actually very honored to be here. And I want to send a special thank you to Anthony. He's somewhere in the audience. Where is he at? There he is. There he is. Let's give Anthony a big round of applause. This gentleman, he went way out of his way to come and pick me up at the airport because I kind of had some weird flight issues on the way here from British Columbia, where I live, and that got all resolved, and now I'm here. I'm very happy to be here. And we actually drove past the site for the Philadelphia experiment last night. That was pretty cool. My first time. Everybody knows the Philadelphia experiment. We are in Philadelphia. You should know about it.
He almost broke the window by getting his camera.
I'm like, what is that? Oh, that's where they did it. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. All right, well, I do have some limited time here today. This is a highly condensed presentation, and I just want to say right off the bat, this is actually a very personal presentation for me. It is essentially my own journey in looking at myself, looking at the world, trying to find who I am, trying to empower myself, trying to find some level of confidence and awareness, learning about what's going on in the world. I mean, this is what this whole conference is about. And the process of freeing my own mind. I grew up in a space of a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, had a lot of circumstances in my life when I was young that really challenged me. And it wasn't easy for me to come to this point that I am here today and to get to the level where I can actually share it with you. But it's been a long time coming, and I'm very, very happy to be here. And I just want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, each and every one of you for coming, for coming to this event, for supporting events like this. I've also run events similar to this in Canada. Maybe some of you have heard of the Modern Knowledge Tour. Yeah, we ran that across the country many times. And my good partner and friend Chris Rusak is still, he's running that out of Toronto. And I believe Ken O'Keefe, who is also speaking at this event, there he is right over there, he's going to be heading up to Toronto very soon to work with Chris. So that's awesome. So thank you for coming out. It's people like you that make this type of information possible for dissemination. The fact that we have the internet, we have these amazing vehicles that we can share this information. This is a very, very, very important time in which we live. And so I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm very grateful to Mark Passio and to Bob Tuskin and all the people that put this awesome event together. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. So it's a personal presentation. This is just a slide to kind of give you an idea of the work that I do. My website is thewayofthetruthwarrior.com, and that's where I'm compiling this information on the concept of warriorship. A lost knowledge, a lost base of knowledge that needs to desperately return in our time. We also have a martial arts academy, which is now mobile. It's kind of a cool, unique thing. We used to have an actual facility that we ran in Toronto for 8 years, but now it's mobile. So we kind of move around. We work with different groups of people, which is really cool. I mean, this is more the physical martial art training aspect, where we teach martial arts and self-defense, and we do a lot of coaching on health and nutrition and whatnot. And that also leads into Health Warrior, which is the other project that my wife and I have put together. And it's because of the fact that we live in a health crisis. We live in a health crisis in terms of the physical attributes that we have. I mean, we're not physically healthy in this modern time. We're also not mentally healthy. And it's very rare to see spiritual health in our day-to-day. So this whole concept that I'm working with my team is to really hit a three-pronged approach, which is very much embedded in the martial art tradition. It's a mind, body, spirit approach, and it's ultimately about raising the health, raising that ability for us to become immune to a lot of the toxins that are in our food, in our air, in our water, but also the toxic ideas that are out there that are disempowering us, that are taking us out of our place of knowing who we are and finding that ability to access the truth and to go out there and to bring about great change in the world. So that's really just a little bit about the work that I do. And just to kind of open with a couple points, I'm not giving any kind of final word on this work. I'm here actually standing on the shoulders of many giants. I'm paying forward the information that has been given to me over many years of working in martial arts, working with various teachers and philosophers. Through the show that I've done and the work that I've done through my Truth Warrior website, I was able to interview people like Mark Passio and people like many of the speakers that are here and many, many other greats that have inspired and taught me. So I'm really just paying this forward. And this is really just a result of my own journey in martial arts. And I feel like even in the martial art world today, so much has been lost, so much has been kind of misrepresented and forgotten about. It's become a focus very much on the physical attributes only, about winning competitions and being the best and having the best style and competing with each other. It's very much taking the same path as what we've seen with religion, fighting over whose God is the right God, what way is the right way. And what we're really trying to do today is bring that into some state of harmony and finding some balance with looking at all of these different perspectives and then making this a unique individual journey. So the way of the warrior is a path it's basically a path of an individual. And each one of you in this room, you are an individual. And our society today is hurtling us towards a collectivism type of ideology that is based on groupthink mentality, where you have one idea, one leash to control many necks. And that's a very powerful force, and we've seen how that has decimated societies and civilizations throughout history. And I believe that we are in a time where we are waking up to that, and we are remembering who we are. And this is why I feel like this warrior concept, this philosophy, this perennial warrior philosophy desperately needs to return, because it's the way of empowerment. It's the way of understanding courage. It's the way of learning how to stand up, recognize your sovereignty, understand, like what Mark Passio has talked about so many times about natural law, understanding what that means. And we're going to get into that a little bit today. And then obviously having the means by which to defend yourself spiritually, physically, emotionally, and to be able to kind of put that line in the sand and stand in your own power. And that's really what this is about. So this is an evolving philosophy. It's a process of continuing growth. And I always like this meme. It kind of goes around a lot. And being that this is the Free Your Mind conference, I'm sure you would agree, one does not simply free their mind. It's not a simple process. It is a hard process. It is an arduous process. At least it was for me, and I'm sure you would agree. Would you agree? It's not an easy thing to do, to wake up to these things that we're all talking about here at a conference like this. And not just about what's going on in the world, in the geopolitical spectrum, or what's going on in the social spectrum, but what's going on in our own consciousness. What's going on in each one of our own minds. What has led you here? I want you to think about that. What brought you to this conference? A quest for answers, a quest to seek understanding about yourself and the world. And there is no greater thing that you could be a part of. So I just want to encourage you, don't ever give up on that. Question everything, even what I'm saying. Question everything that you hear. Process it on your own. Do your own research. And come at this from your own unique individual perspective. And that's really what we're going to be getting into here. Because most people are governed by their fears. They're governed by their habits, which tend to usually be kind of bad habits. And they're also governed by the opinions of other people. I mean, how many things do you hold back? I can think of many things that I hold back. How many things do you hold back from sharing or from doing in the world because of pressure from family, pressure from friends or peers or coworkers? Because they're not on the same page. They want to shout you down. Anybody that's trying to rise up and really express their uniqueness, they're going to get shut down by all those people that aren't quite there yet. And we do have to have a level of empathy for those people because they are themselves trapped in their own prison, their own limiting belief system. So we need to transcend that if we're even going to be able to come close to analyzing what's going on around us in the world, look around at what we see happening politically. There's no way we can even move close to analyzing and addressing that if we can't analyze and address what's going on in our own psyche. And of course, we are at war. We are at war on many levels. I shouldn't have to really break too much of this down here. I mean, this is a pretty enlightened audience when it comes to this, but there's a war on consciousness. There's a war on health. There's a war on freedom, a war on the environment, a war on resources. There's a race war. There's a battle of the sexes. There's a war on everything that is natural. There's a battle of information that is taking place. And some people might say, oh, you're looking at it like it's very divisive and it's a battle. And well, that's because that's what it is. It's meant to be that way. There is a struggle that is taking place. It's taking place in each one of our own minds, and it's taking place in the collective. And so for every war, it requires a warrior. And I go back to this incredible story. It comes from the Cherokee tradition, actually, and it talks about the story of the two wolves. I'm sure some of you have heard this, where basically a young boy is talking to the chief, and the chief is telling this story about understanding consciousness, and he's saying, in each of us, there are two wolves that are battling. One is evil, one is good, and he's just keeping it very loose, but he's saying, one is representing that red flame of anger, envy, jealousy, hatred, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, false pride, superiority, and lies. And the other wolf is representing that more blue flame of anger, that righteous anger that we all need to have and not suppress. It's representing joy and peace and love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, compassion, faith, and truth. And the little boy asks him, well, which wolf wins this fight? And he tells him, well, it's the one you feed. And when I first heard that story, it really struck home with me. I remember hearing it probably when I was in my teens. And I felt at that time of my life, a teenager, a very conflicting, chaotic time, and you're feeling like there's a struggle taking place. But for all of us, there's a struggle taking place. Sometimes it's a struggle just to think about, hey, am I going to put some good, healthy food in my body today? Am I going to think about what my cells need in order to become vibrant and healthy? Am I really going to serve my body so that I can be at my peak performance, that I can put out the best part of myself today? Or, am I just going to forget about it and sit on the couch, eat nachos, watch TV, and just forget about it, right? And of course, everything is about having balance in your life, but if you're tending to go one to the extreme, then even on that micro level, you're seeing which wolf is winning that fight. And so, when it comes to martial arts, I've worked in various martial arts systems for many different years, and there are many systems you can train, but there is a very common thread, and that is this idea about learning how to cultivate a warrior mindset, learning how to face adversity, learning how to face yourself first. There's something interesting. I did a lot of boxing and kickboxing, and you do something called shadow boxing. And I find that interesting when you think of that in sort of a Jungian term, the shadow, fighting the shadow and learning about who you are, the dark side, the light side, and really just analyzing that. And when you're facing yourself in the mirror, or back in the day, it was literally they would see their shadow, the sun would be coming in, and they're just checking out their form or whatever. But the idea is you're looking at a mirror image as a reference point so that you can better yourself through a physical form. And the reason why a physical form of this type of, meditation, for example, it's very much a physical meditation. The reason it is very important that we do that is because we live in a physical reality. And yes, of course, holographic universe, it's a fractal and all of that, but there is a physical nature to your being. And I think in a lot of the spiritual communities, they tend to negate that. They tend to say, well, that's where all the evil is, so ignore that and just put your head out in the clouds, tune out, sit in still position all the time, don't move around, just bliss out and everything will be okay. And that's clearly not a very effective strategy when it comes to addressing not only yourself, but problems that you're going to find in the world. So in the martial art tradition, this is a physical art. It's the art of movement, moving the body. somatic intelligence. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. The movement and the intelligence of the body, getting that flow, getting that chi flowing, so that you can access different levels of consciousness in your mind. And you can unite the mind, the body, and the spirit. And of course, in the martial art world, as I was saying before, everybody's saying, well, no, it's karate is the best martial art. Kung Fu is the best martial art to train. It would beat karate on its best day. No, Jiu-Jitsu, they're going to take you to the ground. They're going to submit you. There's nothing you can do. Jiu-Jitsu is the best martial art. And on and on and on and on we could go. Well, I've studied many martial arts. And what I've done personally is I've just taken what I feel to be the best for me, what worked best for me, and apply a variety of different disciplines to kind of create my own art. Because that's what art is. I mean, we can't paint by numbers forever. We need to eventually, we need to learn those basic steps when we're learning any kind of discipline. But eventually we need to take that into an artistic level, and we need to be able to apply that in our own unique way, or otherwise, what are you doing? You're just following somebody else's perspective, somebody else's way of doing something. And then you're going to get into the little fights. You're going to join these little cliques, and you're going to join these little groups, and you're going to wear your little uniforms, and you're going to say, no, we are the superior martial art force, or our religion is the truth. Our way is the truth. And as we can see, that is actually destroying and dividing humanity. It's not uniting anything, it's not creating harmony, and it's not based in truth. So this is where, for me, martial arts was something a little bit different when it was viewed in this light. Here's just a couple. I mean, it's obviously been in Hollywood for some time, and Hollywood is guilty of spreading a lot of disinformation about martial arts, but there's been some good ones. And there's always this motif of the sensei and the student. And that really called to me as a young guy, because I needed mentorship when I was young. I needed guidance. I was lost. I was afraid. I was broken. I had a lot of things that were getting in the way of my own development, and I knew instinctively, okay, I need some help. I need to seek guidance. But the problem is, where do you go? You don't go to the media. You're not going to get it in school. Unless you get that random awesome teacher, that, kind of like that Robin Williams character in that Poet Society or whatever movie, something like that. But by and large, our children today in school are not getting that mentorship. And so that's an aspect in our society and in our culture that is missing, that used to be very much a part of many of the ancient cultures, especially the cultures that produced these various training disciplines. So you have the sensei and the student. And a good teacher is not there to get you to just follow their way of doing things. The best kinds of teachers that I've come across in my life that have dramatically impacted my life have been the ones that have shown me the wisdom of my own mind. They've shown me my potential. They've helped me learn that. And then now here I am teaching and passing that on. But what tends to happen is people get what I like to call like guru-itis. They set themselves up as like the authority on a particular thing, and then they create that group, that collectivist sort of idea, and then it loses its real value. What we should be doing, especially if you're here today at this conference and you're out there trying to inspire people to become the best of who they are, to align with the truth, to seek answers, to work peacefully and harmoniously in the world, to align with people that are out there doing amazing work, producing awesome solutions for these problems that we face. If you're out there encouraging people, we have to ask ourselves, how are we doing that? Are we trying to grab them by the shoulders and shake the hell out of them and slap them across the face and say, hey, you better wake up and you better hear what I have to say, and you better believe everything I've got to say? Is that really effective? Is that really reaching out? Is that showing them the wisdom of their own mind? Is that inspiring them the way you've been inspired? And I had to ask myself these questions because I'm an Aries, I'm stubborn, I run through, My wife, she's a Sagittarius. She kind of sits on the outside like an archer and just watches first and says, hey, look before you leap. So thank God for her. But really, this concept of mentorship is important. We need powerful role models, powerful teachers in the world, but we need to get rid of this priest, guru, I'm an authority on truth kind of item. I even feel weird standing above you here. It's just for visual effect only, I promise. I'm not above you at all. But I'm running out of time, so let's move forward. I want to give you some definitions. This kind of cracked me up. When you hear the term warrior, I looked it up on Dictionary Online, and here's what I found. I was rather disappointed. Number one, A brave or experienced soldier or fighter. A brave or experienced soldier or fighter. That's what a warrior is, ladies and gentlemen. Or number 2, it's a pose in yoga. I think it's something like this. I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, that's all you got? Dictionary.com? Are you kidding me? Let's redefine the warrior today, shall we? A warrior understands honor, values honor, and possesses honor. What is honor, you ask? Well, honor is composed of 3 tenets: justice, obligation, and courage. Justice is simply knowing the difference between right and wrong and choosing to do what is right. I believe that we all inherently know when we can get rid of all the cobwebs and we can clear our vision and we can take off the rose-colored glasses, we know the difference between right and wrong. I've tested this with children. I'm in a fortunate position to train people from different countries in the world, from different backgrounds, different age brackets, different challenges. I've had guys with bad knees, bad backs. I've had women that are just, they don't even want to look at me. They're so self-conscious of their body. They don't even want to start training because they're just like, oh, I'm so worried about what you think of me while I'm training. I'm like, well, just relax. You're here to work through these things, right? I've had children that walk in like little sheep, like, oh my God, is this guy going to punch me or something? Like they're scared of me. They're scared of their own shadow. And I sympathize with that because that was me. That was me, but I assure you that is not me today. And what I do is I work with these children and I try to straighten up their spine, puff out their chest, bring their head up high, have them looking at you in the eyes when they're talking to you, and I can do that within 6 months. And it's because of what's lacking. It's like when you're feeling sick or you're constantly getting those flus and colds, you're lacking energy, you're getting out of bed and you're like, oh my God, I need like 7 coffees before I can even think straight, you know? It's because you're lacking nutrients. There's something lacking. It's not always because you need something, it's because you're lacking something. So when we see this exemplified in the minds of these children, a lot of people in school, they just actually classify them into some kind of, oh, they got some kind of attention deficit disorder. They can't pay attention. Are you kidding me? They're bored shitless in school. That's why. You're not teaching them anything of value. You're not inspiring them. You're not evoking any kind of humanity in them. You're not giving them any reason to be there. You're just piling a bunch of facts in their head that they're going to forget anyways. You know, most of these kids I've had come and work at my school in their 20s, who's teaching these people today? It's unbelievable. But aside from just the value of the information they should be getting, they're not getting that understanding of justice, obligation, courage. A warrior recognizes that his or her abilities carry a responsibility, and they have the courage to act on that responsibility. And we live in the time of action, ladies and gentlemen. We've already figured out that there's a problem. I'm pretty sure we don't need to keep dwelling on that anymore. And I see so many people in this alternative field. I have the opportunity of working with a lot of people, and they're so depressed and downtrodden. And there's nothing left because they've given everything else away. And it came from a virtuous place. I can tell. But they didn't take care of their own house. They didn't empower themselves. They just went, oh my God, the Illuminati's out to get us. What are we going to do? They're spraying the skies. They're poisoning the food. They're poisoning the water. What are we going to do? And then that's how they communicate the message to people. And then people go, oh my God, the Illuminati's out to get us. They're spraying the skies, spraying the food. Ah, the sky is falling. It's like Chicken Little all over again. Although those things are happening. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying we should be a little more tactful of how we spread this information. A warrior trains diligently in the arts and sciences of survival, defense, scholarly study, and character development. We're going to talk a lot about character development today. Now, what is a truth warrior? Let's talk about truth. It's the best scene ever, right? I want the truth. Well, you can't handle the truth, right? Well, we can't handle the truth. Let's be honest. If you just had all of the truth of what's happening in the world just thrown at you in 30 seconds or less, you would break down like Neo in the Matrix and we'd be like, okay, well, I got to get out of here, okay? Seriously, right? It's hard to handle. But what about your own truth? What about the truth about yourself? Do we ever look at that? It's very easy to actually get into a form of escapism and start looking externally around the world and creating a victim-like mentality that says, oh, well, it's all of them doing all of this thing to us, and I have zero responsibility in this. I just want to point fingers all of the time. And I've often used this example that when I'm pointing fingers at you and saying you're the one that's doing this, you're the one that's contributing to this. What's happening right now? I got 3 fingers pointing right back at me. And I've always said I don't believe that's an accident of nature. It's a lesson. Just remember that when you're giving your responsibility away, you're giving your power away. Responsibility and power, your own personal power, they are synonymous. So the dictionary.com says about truth, and I kind of added some of my own touch to this. It says, the truth is the real facts about something. The things that are true. The quality or state of being true. A statement or idea that is true or accepted as true. But I mean, it could all be summed up as that which is. Plain and simple. I'm standing before you right now with a microphone talking to you. That is what is, right? There's nothing you can do about it. But then we can look at, one of the founding fathers of America, what he has to say about truth. And he's kind of hinting at something very interesting here when he says, freedom had been hunted around the globe. Reason was considered as a rebellion. And the slavery of fear had made men afraid to think. But such is the irresistible nature of truth, that all it asks and all it wants is the liberty of appearing. The truth is the last thing on people's minds, because it forces a process where they need to have some courage. They must have some courage in order to face the truth. It's part of this reality. Even if we got the perfect system happening in the world and we eliminated all the evildoers or whatever this utopian idea, there would still be this mechanism built in, because I believe that this planet and this life is kind of like a dojo. Dojo in Japanese just means a place of training, a hall of training. We're here to train. We're here to cultivate this. We need an oppositional force to grind us from being just a hunk of rock into a diamond. Or the way that they make these katana swords, the most incredible piece of technology to ever emerge from the medieval period. Can cut through slabs of rock, can cut entire, there's swords masters, I've seen some spectacular things, but it has to do with the way that they make this blade. They make that blade flexible, they fold that metal thousands of times, they pound it in the fire to turn it into this beautiful and amazing tool, which hopefully we don't have to use anymore for, killing people, but just in terms of using it as an analogy, the sword represents the mind. It represents the spirit of the warrior. In the samurai tradition, the sword was carried with them all the time, not just so that they could just behead all of the beggars in the streets for, talking to them, although that did happen. But, in terms of the real understanding of the warrior concept and the samurai concept, the sword represented truth. It represented the spirit of the samurai. So to refine your spirit, to refine who you are, to become a warrior, you have to go through the fire. It is a trial by fire, and this planet, it's the best place to really get that happening, eh? Absolutely. And what is a truth warrior? I have a quick story I want to tell you about this. I was maybe, I was 17 or 18, went to a martial art training convention, kind of like this. They had a variety of different senseis you could train with. You train with each one for about 45 minutes. By the end of the weekend, you probably trained with 25 different martial art masters. And I went to that convention. I was so excited. I was a young guy, training all the time. But I was really conflicted at that time. I was going through a lot psychologically. I was trying to figure things out. And there was one sensei there who, during his training exercises, kept coming back to the philosophy, the esoteric side of martial arts. And that was what originally had attracted to me when I was 9 years old. That's what originally attracted me to martial arts. And I walked up to him after, and I felt like a good vibration from him, and I just wanted to ask him this question. I just said, "Sensei, do you have a minute?" He's like, "Oh, absolutely." I said, "What are we doing this for? Why are we learning this? Why are we here?" And it just all started coming out. I'm like, well, what's the point of life? What are we doing? What do we need to survive this crazy experience? I'm lost. And he said to me, he goes, "The way I see it, this planet is a dojo. And in this life, you need 2 things in order to find peace and meaning in your life. One, you need the truth to be present and available in all areas of your life. And you'll need the spine of a warrior in order to discover that truth for yourself. I was hooked after that. I was like, okay, I don't quite understand what you just said, but I know it's important. This knows it. This will figure it out eventually. So I just kind of wrote this, the easiest way I could sum it up in one sentence about a truth warrior. Courage fosters truth, and truth furthers courage. And that is what we need in this time. Would you agree? We need some truth, we need some courage. So let's continue. I did a little comparison of warrior culture versus modern culture, especially in the way children are being raised. Now, don't get me wrong. In the warrior tradition, in the history of martial arts, in the history of this idea, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens. Okay? There's a lot of things that I don't agree with. But when you tease out the best parts of it, when you really tease out, you're going to see that there's something that runs through all of these traditions. And it's this ancient science. And if you look at it, you look at Spartan culture, for example, the Greek Spartans. By the age of 14, a boy was a survival expert. By the age of 18, he was one of the most formidable warriors on earth. In the Viking culture, a boy at 6 learns Glima. That's one of the martial arts systems founded by the Vikings. By 18, he's a skilled warrior, survivor, and navigator. Samurai, age 5, starts training, schooled in archery, military tactics, unarmed combat, riding, how to handle a spear, survival skills, self-control, mental training, meditation. They were taught literature, art, and writing. And by 16, they were regarded as being a member of one of the most sophisticated warrior classes on the planet. The Sikh warriors trained in the art of Gatka. This is a very interesting martial art. I had the opportunity to train with some of the Sikhs when I was in Toronto. Fantastic. A very peaceful art as well, very much based in an ancient form of wisdom. It's fantastic. But the Sikh warriors were trained, even from childhood. They would supplement their training with martial art games, and it was developing physical fitness, endurance, flexibility, and agility, and they were regarded very much as a peaceful yet powerful class of warriors. The Native Americans trained in hunting, fishing, foraging, and survival skills. The wilderness survival training gives true knowledge of the world and of the warrior's relationship to it. It recognizes nature as the first opponent. The warrior learns that one cannot compete with such a powerful opponent. And they learn that this quote-unquote opponent is a mirror to their own heart, and as such deserves respect and love. Now I want to clarify this word opponent, because some of you guys might be going, what are you talking about nature being an opponent? Well, I live in beautiful British Columbia. British Columbia is one of the most formidable places to go out and attempt to survive on your own in the world. It's incredibly wet and damp, and there are big predators out there. Trust me, it's an opponent. But in martial arts, an opponent is not looked at as an enemy. Example of an opponent would be you and me getting together to do some training, and there's an agreement between us. Don't hold back. We need to sharpen our skills. I need you to test me. I need you to come at me with everything you've got, and I will do the same for you. Because we know that that's what it takes to sharpen each other. And as we keep working together, it's about moving this energy. It's about developing and understanding the body, the mind, the spirit, how it works, how the doubt creeps into your head, and at the last second, you're doing things you wouldn't normally be doing because something got in the way. I need you to be an opponent for me. I need you to present a challenge so that you can give me that oppositional force that I need in order to grow, and then I do the same for you. It's not based in violence, or it's not based in trying to I'm trying to be better than you. And that is polluting the martial art world. And they've forgotten that that's not what it ever was supposed to be about. Because how do you raise a truly moral warrior culture? If you just train people combat, you're going to end up with what we've got today. The very force in our society, looking at something like the police and the military, the very force that we have in our society that is supposed to be the warriors in our society has actually turned into one of the abusers in many cases. And we need to turn that around. We need to help educate that. We need to really try to inspire these men and women to take up that original oath, to really take up what it was, what really inspired them in the beginning, which was, and I've spoken to many of them, they really wanted to be a warrior. They wanted to do what this whole discipline and this perennial knowledge was saying. But then they, follow orders, don't listen to your heart, do what you're told, learn combat, no No spiritual, psychological development. Just follow orders. If we say kill, go kill. Don't think about it. That's not warriorship. That's soldiering. It's different, okay? So we need to cultivate a positive warrior society. So as I was comparing all these different cultures, and there's many, I just gave you a couple examples, compare that today to our kids. Raised to be victims. By age 6, children are either obese or at the very least they're unhealthy. They have some kind of physical ailment that is there. They're lacking confidence. They're playing video games. Virtually zero survival skills. No knowledge of conflict resolution. Watching excess of television. Crammed into schoolrooms and forced to sit still. Trained to memorize and repeat. Raised with no core values. Taught to never question authority. And programmed to back down from bullies and never engage in any sort of conflict. So what can we learn from these ancient warrior cultures? These kids are taught to be pacifists. And you might think, oh, but that's good. They're going to be very peaceful, aren't they? Yeah, predators love pacifists. They live for it. They're like, oh, yummy. No resistance whatsoever. Yay, more for me. I grew up being bullied in school, having fights every other day for my survival in school, proving myself. And I was a scrawny little kid. Not much different now, but I'm a little more formidable. But the idea is that we need to change this dynamic, take the positive sides of these past warrior cultures and build them into our children today so that they become empowered, so that we can empower society again. Empower, if you want to know, yes, thank you. Absolutely. If you want to know why we keep getting tyrants in politics and we keep seeing unjust war, and that slide that I showed with the war slide, why that's happening is because the good people do nothing, because they're not prepared. And the parents that I often interact with that bring their children to me, they're worse. They're worse. I'm like, let's not churn the children into you, shall we? Let's help empower you and help empower these children. Absolutely. So screw dictionary.com. Let's hear it from a real warrior, shall we? Morihei Shiba, old sensei. Nothing but respect for this man. One of the most prolific writers on the beautiful philosophy of a peaceful warrior tradition. He says, the way of the warrior has been misunderstood. The way of the warrior is to establish harmony. True Buddha calls for bringing the inner energy of the universe in order, protecting the peace of the world, as well as preserving everything in nature in its right form. Does that sound like the military-industrial complex that we have today? Can you imagine what the world would be like if this was our base for understanding this? And to kind of dissect Budo, this is a Japanese principle, and the term Budo can be translated as martial way or path, but it derives actually from something a little more complex. The kanji is made up of the words to stop, two, the number 2, and spears, giving the literal translation, stop 2 spears. The 2 spears, the physical world and the inner world. This meaning has been interpreted by some as martial ways to peace, or peace through training, not peace through conquering other countries. Peace through training, cultivating, empowering. And it can clearly be seen that this bears no relationship with the origin of Bujitsu. Bujitsu is actually just means the skills. I know how to shoot a bow and arrow. I can do a flying triangle choke on you. I can do, that's a skill. But Budo, without the moral philosophy, you're just a savage. And that's the idea. That's why Budo was implemented. And actually, within the samurai classes, it got corrupted and forgotten, and they became mercenaries for these various empires as well. But that was not the original intention. As with all things, it got corrupted and messed up. From one thing, know 10,000 things. From one thing, know 10,000 things. I have 2 beautiful children. I have to know 10,000 things from one thing. We have to know 10,000 things from one thing when we're looking at this information and contemplating our existence and contemplating solutions for our world and for ourselves as individuals. And in the art of Bushido, which is Bushido, to me, is really representing the best merging of Budo and Bujitsu. So you've got the body skill, body. You've got the mental understanding of the moral code and the spiritual flow through both of those vehicles. And so they say, we talk about the loyal warrior, the righteous warrior, and the valiant warrior. And it is he who is endowed with all three of these virtues who is the warrior of the highest class. Now we can go back in a little bit of history. I'm fascinated with the history of this planet. It is not what we've been told. I'm sure you would agree. And there's a really cool legend coming out of Tibet and India about a place called Shambhala, which in Sanskrit is a word that means place of peace or place of silence. And it's a mythical paradise. It's got 1,000 different names. In the Eastern tradition, this is where they go to when they're talking about pre-Diluvian civilizations of high order, high technology, high science, high advanced knowledge. In the Western traditions, we talking about Atlantis and Lemuria and Mu and all these different things. But no matter where you look, you go into the myths and legends, you study the histories, they're telling us, hey guys, there was something before what we have now. Where history starts in the official lines, that's actually just the beginning. There's a whole chapter that's missing. And, it's just interesting that with this legend of Shambhala, a lot of people have said, oh, it's hidden in the mountains of Tibet somewhere and they're going to dig it up. Maybe. It's kind of like Atlantis. Everybody's finding Atlantis every other week. But it also could be referencing a state of mind of human consciousness. If you look into something like phylogenetic memory or race memory, we carry that with us. We carry the memory of our ancestors, which is why in these warrior traditions there was always a very strong tradition of remembering the ancestors. Because it was important to remember both the bad aspects of that consciousness and the positive aspects, because it's carrying through a line of knowledge and information that is very relevant to our time, and our job is supposedly to evolve that. So this idea of this perfect kingdom that was peaceful and harmonious, it's actually said that this Shambhala was a warrior kingdom. And you go, oh, they're peaceful? They're a warrior kingdom? How does that work? Well, you wouldn't understand that unless you understood what I've just told you about what a warrior really is, what a warrior culture is. And this man, Chogyam Trungpa, controversial character, granted, kind of suffered a little bit from guru-itis, yes? I could go on and on about this man, but in this work, you can't be a fundamentalist, guys. You can't just go, oh, I disagree with that one statement he made or whatever that one thing you did, so kick the baby out with the bathwater. Man, you'll be running around in circles forever. If you find something that he did a really good work on this idea of Shambhala and bringing out the warrior. It's one of his best pieces of work. And he wrote the book called The Sacred Path of the Warrior. And he says about this, and what he did was he translated ancient Tibetan and actually a lot of the indigenous Tibetan ideas, as well as working with some of the different Hindu, Sanskrit texts. And he brought forward this legend. He was one of the first people to do it, and that's why I'm going to him. And he says, the Shambhala teachings are founded on the premise that there is a basic human wisdom that can help solve the world's problems. This wisdom does not belong to any one culture or religion, nor does it come only from the West or the East. Rather, it is a tradition of human warriorship that has existed in many cultures at many times throughout history. Warriorship here does not refer to making war on others. Evil aggression is the source of our problems, not the solution. Here, the word warrior is taken from the Tibetan pao, which literally means one who is brave. Warriorship in this context is the tradition of human bravery or the tradition of fearlessness. We need to have that if we're going to move even 1 inch forward. And I find it interesting. We keep hearing this refrain again and again. Oh, Atlantis, they had ancient technology. They were so advanced, and then somehow they destroyed themselves, or something happened, or there was a great cataclysm. And then since that moment, it's as if the consciousness of humanity was shattered. And then we started this track that we're on right now, which in some ways is okay, but it's not really working out that well. So we're going to move now to moral virtue. And I really got to get through this quick, but I'm doing my best here with the time. In the Asian tradition, in the Japanese samurai tradition, there are 7 virtues of Bushido. These are the virtues that are so key to understanding And I suggest you spend time studying and meditating each one of these, because it will bring so much richness to your life. Because we're going to understand what morality really is and what it does. And this is very much ingrained in the samurai tradition. And again, it's what separates the warrior from the soldier. In the native tradition, we have the 7 sacred teachings as well. Love, honesty, respect, truth, courage, wisdom, humility. And you can go back to the Hermetic tradition, and you have really the 7 Hermetic principles, which are also talking about, reality, the nature of reality. So you see this number 7 a lot. It's very interesting. 7 chakras, we go on about the number 7. I don't think these numbers are trivial. I think there's a reason that consciousness attracts those numbers. When it applies to your moral virtue, it's kind of mind-blowing when you really stop and think about it, what the implications of that are. In the ancient Germanic traditions, they have nine noble virtues. They represent the distilled wisdom and the ancient Germanic moral code gleaned from various ancient sources, including the poetic Edda and the Icelandic sagas and Germanic folklore. And again, courage, truth, honor, fidelity, discipline, hospitality, industriousness, self-reliance, perseverance. In the Sikh warrior tradition, sorry, it's a little small on my screen here. I'm going to read it from here. They kind of go into a little more detail. They just have one word. They say, a true warrior is humble and gentle. A true warrior has no arrogance and bears no malice, even to his enemies. A true warrior recognizes himself as an instrument of the universal spirit. A true warrior will follow and serve the hukam, which is the natural order of the universal spirit. A true warrior seeks justice, freedom, and protection for all beings, recognizing the importance of all creation and nature. A true warrior is ready and determined to stand up for justice, combating injustice in word and in action. A true warrior is a weapon of the universal spirit. The one who recognizes himself as such realizes all inner self-identity, merging with the flow of nature's law, attaining the mental and physical powers of a warrior. A true warrior fights with his mind before fighting with his sword. A true warrior is a saint and a warrior integrated into one. I could probably drop the mic after that one. That's pretty much it, eh? But let's go farther. If I can get this slide to work. There we go, hold on. There we go. This sums it all up. One little sentence. If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm. So yeah, we can take up arms, and we can try to overthrow the tyrannical government. But as William Blake said, the hand that crushed the tyrant's head will arise a tyrant in its stead. And we will continue again and again and again and again and again to continually be on this cycle of tyranny and violence, evil, injustice, criminality, corruption, and conspiracy in our world, right? But if we focus our efforts, when you want to know what you can do with this information, everybody asks you, what am I going to do with this information? I can't fight the man. I'm just one guy. What can I do? Or I'm one girl. Well, hey, that's what you can do. Get to work. There's lots to be done. Why are you going out fixing other people? What is that? You're not going to fix them. You can't change other people. You can only change yourself and then inspire others through your action, through your words, and through your deeds. It's contagious, as is the toxic elements of human consciousness. So work on this. That is the message. If you take anything from what I'm saying today, I hope it's that. Natural law. I don't have to spend too much time on this, but I like this quote from Jeffrey Anderson. In nature, everything is connected, interwoven, subject to natural law. We cannot separate ourselves from that, no matter how hard we try. You can fight against it, you can run from it, but you can't hide. And you will be victim of your own consciousness for the rest of your life. You will live as a victim because you believe you are a victim. The martial art tradition is here to tell you you are not a victim. There is a solution for every problem. It is not hopeless. You have to start thinking like a victor. Every morning when you wake up and every night before you go to bed, stop feeling like a victim. Stop pointing fingers at your friends and family. Oh, it's them. They're making me feel emotionally unstable. They're adding all this stress into my life. It's you that's emotionally unstable. It's you that's adding stress to your life. Yes, there are people that do a lot of negative shit. What are you going to do about it? That's what this is really trying to say. What are you going to do? Are you going to walk around and be a victim for the rest of your life? Or are you going to grow the spine of a warrior and bring the truth forward in your own life and lead by example? Let's see how things go from that point forward, shall we? And trust me, I'm not here preaching at you. I'm speaking from passion. I'm speaking to myself 10 times as loud. Because I aspire to this. You don't understand the amount of reverence and respect that I have for this knowledge and the great teachers that have come before to share it. I aspire to it every day. I'm only here to encourage you to do the same. Morality equals freedom. No morality equals slavery. I've had the honor of doing a lot of work with Michael Tsarian. I'm sure some of you are familiar with his work. There are a lot of misunderstandings out there about that man. I've had the honor of working with him for about 7 years on a personal level and doing many shows with him. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes with him. And the fact that he's still speaking and producing work is incredible with what he's had to go through. But he's out there, and he's created an amazing website called shellingzone.com, where he's getting into the very interesting, or very deep philosophy that will help us, become empowered. And he's citing a lot of these different speakers and teachers and philosophers from the past. And he got a little quote from an amazing article that he wrote, where he's talking about this morality-freedom connection. And he says, "The evil man can only hope to fill the world with immoral or amoral people, such as himself, in that way in that way justify his malignant behavior. But even if he succeeds in his enterprise, he won't find happiness. As Kant and Schelling show, the moral law is always an extension of freedom. It serves as a limit, but one that emphasizes the opposite of limitation. Moral law is therefore rational and sane. One conforms to it not out of fear or oppressive duty, but from care for oneself and others. The limit imposed on my will by a moral law opens up a space for others to express their will. As civilized people, we give each other room and do so freely because we do so because we venerate freedom for itself. And that is the mark of an authentic human being. And I would say that is the mark of a warrior." And I love this quote. "The society that separates its scholars from its warriors will have its thinking done by cowards and its fighting done by fools." Recognize anything there? The warrior in this context is a protector of truth, morality, reason, peace, and justice, as we saw in those beautiful moral principles we went through. Now, bear with me on this. I have to do a little bit of reading for you. This is from Gustave Le Bon in his book called The Crowd, a study of the popular mind. He called it the popular mind. He was analyzing crowds. This is back in, 1800s, early 1900s. He was a French social psychologist. We've heard of Edward Bernays. He talked about it as being the public mind. A mind, this is the one leash for many necks concept. This is where they can cultivate a collective group. And when you study how crowds operate, and many experiments have been done in malls and in public gatherings where you have certain cues put out there. I mean, go to a stage hypnotist show. You'll understand that it can be easily manipulated to have everybody come into one thought process, erasing all individuality and all the faculties that would otherwise separate you and have you have your own individual and unique expression, and they can put you into that state so that you're singing from their song sheet, okay? And this can be very negative. I just need to figure out how this will... Okay, I'll have to just read the first part of this. But he says, "The great upheavals which precede changes of civilization, such as the fall of the Roman Empire and the foundation of the Arabian Empire, seems at first sight determined more especially by political transformations, foreign invasion, or the overthrow of dynasties. But a more attentive study of these events shows that behind their apparent causes, the real cause is generally seen to be a profound modification in the ideas of peoples. The true historical upheavals are not those which astonish us by their grandeur and violence. The only important changes whence the renewal of civilization's results affects ideas, conceptions, and beliefs. The memorable events of history are visible effects of the invisible changes of human thought. The reason that these great events are so rare is that there is nothing so stable in a race as the inherited groundwork of its thoughts." And I had more of this to go through, but I can't fix this thing. So basically what he gets into is understanding that it's the masses, the mass psychology, which is typically manipulated by the media, by the orgs, by the speakers, by the preachers, by the religious leaders. It's manipulated to have one mind so that it's easy for tyrants to stay in power. And it's interesting when you study cancer cells, malignant cancer cells, and you understand how that works inside your body. It's the same thing. It's going around and trying to recruit other cells to kill you. That's what it's trying to do. And what you're trying to do is raise your immunity, raise your pH balance, be in a state of alkalinity. I just need to go down to this. And to therefore be able to combat that and mitigate that and stop that from happening. So if we take that, if you understand the micro-macro concept, we look at this amazing study by Gustave Le Bon. I recommend everybody read this book. And then you carry that into Edward Bernays' work and you study that and go, oh yeah, they've really been working hard to control, manipulate the opinions of the public mind to produce a society that is fit for rulership, not warriorship. And so it's up to us, individually and collectively, to raise our immunity and to go on this process of not being a part of the herd. It's okay, I'm out of time anyways. And Bruce Lee says about this, I cannot blindly follow the crowd and accept their approach. I will not allow myself to indulge in the usual manipulating game of role creation. Let's hear something quick from Bruce Lee himself on the real meaning of martial arts.
Martial art has a very, very deep meaning as far as my life is concerned because as an actor, as a martial artist, as a human being, all these I have learned from martial art. To me, at least the way that when I teach it, all type of knowledge ultimately means self-knowledge. So therefore, they're coming in to, and ask me to teach them not so much of how to defend themselves or how to do somebody in. Rather, they want to learn to express themselves through some movement, be it anger, be it determination, or whatsoever. Actually, you see, it's a combination of both. Here it is the natural instinct, and here is control. You are to combine the two in harmony. Not, if you have one to the extreme, you will be very unscientific. If you have another to the extreme, you become all of a sudden a mechanical man, no longer a human being. So it is a successful combination of both. So therefore, it is not only, therefore it's not pure naturalness or unnaturalness. The ideal is unnatural naturalness or natural unnaturalness.
So yeah, let that bake your noodle for a while. But very interesting what he's talking about there. It's everything that I've been trying to highlight today. I have a great deal of respect for Bruce Lee's work. I read all of his books inside and out multiple times when I was growing up, and it took me a long time to finally get it. And he was, of course, a rogue in the martial art world. He was hated in the martial art world because he was demolishing structured movement. He was demolishing these dogmatic, archaic systems of training that were taking place in this hierarchical martial arts structure. And he was saying, be free, be you, express yourself. Don't limit yourself to these fixed, stagnant, statured postures all the time. Allow your body to move freely. You'll be more effective in combat, absolutely. And that's just a physical representation of how you can be more effective with that inner combat, with that inner struggle. So the freedom to express yourself, to express your uniqueness, that's what we're fighting for today in our world. And it must be fought for. So martial arts is the physical path to enlightenment. And Dr. Bodhi Sanders, I had the honor of interviewing him. He wrote a great book called The Warrior Lifestyle, The Wisdom Warrior. And he talks about it as being a lifestyle, a life of honor, a life of integrity, a life of bravery. And he's got some amazing quotes. I recommend you read the book. I'm going to have to pass through that. But he's essentially talking about what a warrior is someone who's engaged in some sort of struggle. When you think about struggle, we're not talking about war. We're talking about struggle. There's a difference. I had the honor of watching both of my daughters born. My second daughter, Sophia, she's only 10 months old. She was born in 45 minutes at home, naturally, on our bed. Thank you. I can't, I'm going to break out here. But what an incredible process that is, let me tell you. Men, if you're running out of the room because you're like, I don't want to see that, oh, come on, just man up and experience that. It's incredible. Watch what it took to get here. What did it take just to get here? What did it take? It wasn't ponies and rainbows, I assure you. It was struggle. It was struggle. You were born through struggle. In this world, you will face struggle. And as warriors, you will learn to embrace struggle. Because it's the only way that life gets reproduced, through struggle. So you need to have the spine of a warrior to make it. And that's what this is all about. When it comes to violence, I have all these parents coming in and going, well, I want to sign up my kid because he's getting bullied at school, he's getting picked on, he's getting beaten up all the time, but I don't want him to become violent now. I'm like, well, do you want your kid to be able to defend himself? Do you understand what this is all about? And I have to have this conversation on a daily basis. And I picked this great quote from Otaki Risuki. He's regarded as one of the most renowned sword masters in the world. And he's talking about violence, and he's saying, to be clear, the martial arts we practice today are highly efficient arts of killing others. But our tradition taught that martial arts were not used for conflict, but rather for achieving peace during times of war. Martial artists must possess humility and selflessly serve others. This is what I consider to be true Bushido. Bushido devoid of the spirit of humility is nothing more than violence. And violence is really synonymous with violation, is it not? If I'm walking out of the street and I get mugged by someone that wants to pull a knife and stab me for my running shoes, well, is it moral for me to just go, yeah, all right, yeah, I want to love you right now. Okay, go for it. Am I really, is that realistic? No. Where did the violation take place after I choked that guy unconscious? Where did the violation take place? It took place because they stepped past that line in the sand that I walk around with that says, all right, here and no further. I want to love you. I want to talk about enlightenment and spirituality and peace. But don't mess with me, man. Like, you have to have that. Yeah. Gotta say, here and no further. Soki Misaki Hatsumi. I'm teaching you how to fight. I'm not teaching you how to fight. I'm teaching you how to control evil. That's what we're really doing here. What evil is he talking about? Inside. What is evil? We get all these visions of like big satanic Luciferian meetups and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's evil shit. But what about just understanding a basic understanding of what evil is? It is the inversion, is the opposite of life, the opposite of living. So this is what we're fighting against. And this is me cleaning my dojo, polishing the mirrors. I'm totally thrilled. But I use this as just a funny picture to show you that what we're engaged here is a process of sanitization. And the word sanity comes from that same root word. And there's no coincidence there. Sanity comes from sanitization. And that's what you're trying to do. Because you're walking around in a plasma of other people, even the energy of other people. You're going to feel it in the room. You feel good energy here, do you not? Because you're with good people that are projecting good energy. Yeah, I feel it. I feel it. But let's go down to a political rally, shall we? Let's go down to a football game when everybody's hammered out of their minds and slugging it out in the stadium. That's a little bit of a different kind of energy. You better be sanitized in order to stay strong in that situation. The weakest of all weak things is a virtue that has not been tested in the fire. Love that. We're going through 3 tenets here: morality, awareness, responsibility. These are the 3 tenets of martial arts that we're trying to cultivate. With great power comes great responsibility. Through our thoughts, our actions, and our emotions, we talk about this as mind, body, spirit. The thoughts, actions, and emotions are emanations of that. So whatever thoughts you're possessing in your mind, whatever emotions you're feeling in your heart, are going to contribute to produce the actions that you're going to produce into the physical world. So if we see malignant action taking place, where do you think that person's head is at? Where do you think our society's head is at? It's not aligned. It's not It's not sanitized. It's not whole. It needs to become whole. And Yoshiba, again, he says, the way of the warrior is based on humanity, love, and sincerity. The heart of martial valor is true bravery, wisdom, love, and friendship. Emphasis on the physical aspects of warriorship is futile, for the power of the body is always limited. I gotta get through this quick. The test of our morality, ladies and gentlemen, is a society and what it does for its children. So I'm gonna give you a very quick reality check, although I know you guys are pretty enlightened, but just to kind of go through so you can see very easily where we're at. And this means that in this time, we need women, we need the mothers of our children to also become warriors. Not these passive, feminist, extreme versions of a very negative femininity. A holistic, it's a very powerful form of the divine feminine that we need to raise these children. Let's look at the mind of our children. How we doing? Doing good? Seems amazing to me. That's the information pouring into their heads 24/7. How's the body doing? Cancer. Every day, 46 kids are diagnosed with cancer. Every day, 7 children will die from cancer. Pediatric cancer kills more kids than cystic fibrosis, pediatric AIDS, and asthma combined. 1 in 330 children will develop cancer by the age of 20. Treatment side effects can last a lifetime for those kids. You got to treat them with preventative empowerment at the cellular level. They need to be eating healthy, vibrant foods loaded with antioxidant protection. They need to have healthy thoughts in their minds, raised with these empowering ideas. What about the spirit? How's their spirit doing? This epidemic of bullying. And this goes for both sides of the fence, not just the bullied, but the bulliers. I've worked with both. And they're both on different ends of that spectrum, and I've brought both of them to equilibrium through this discipline. Addressing the spirit. Childhood depression? Are you kidding me? When you were growing up, did you have an epidemic of childhood depression around you? Oh, they're like, oh, it just wasn't diagnosed. Well, could it have anything to do with the recent change in our society, in the media, and in the kind of information that's being pumped into our kids' heads every single day? The lack of education and training and empowerment? I think so. It's an epidemic, and it needs to change. And where are we heading? Because we have no self, no concept of self, no concept of who we are, we're going to go, somebody help me. What are you going to do about it? Oh, well, then Big Brother comes in and goes, oh, well, this reality, it's kind of twisted and messed up. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So why don't we just go into a virtual reality, shall we? Why don't we just plug you into these nanobots, and you'll never be offline. You'll just always be glued to some technological device. And don't get me wrong, there's a positive side to technology. But there's also an extreme malignant side of it as well. Bob's coming after me. I'm almost done, buddy. We're doing this. The danger from the past was that man became slaves. The danger of the future is that man may become robots. Eric Fromm. Isn't that true? And when did he say that? A long time ago. He's predicting this. Krishnamurti, there's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Michael Tessarian, let us never forget that this is a war on consciousness. It's a war on consciousness. And a lot of it is waged by us, by the way. It's not just external. Your mind is an incredible machine. I had a ton of different things about what the mind is, but just understand that you have something that is an amazing processor of information. It is not the source of consciousness. I don't believe that. Like what they're saying in mainstream science. Oh, you're just a biological animal. It is a vehicle by which you can express your spirit, your spiritual force, and it's an amazing machine, and it needs to be tuned properly. Like if you take a guitar and it's not tuned and you start playing it, it's going to sound like what? Exactly. It's going to sound like shit. Sorry for all the swearing. I went to Ireland this year, and Ireland, you will forever be in my heart and also in my lexicon. Body. Your body's made up of 100 trillion cells, and each cell is made up of 100 trillion atoms, roughly. Okay? So there's a miniature universe inside of you, and you need to take care of it. A lot of things get really heady, and it's easy to be philosophical, and it's easy to contemplate things, but we need to take action. If your body's in a state of health, the mind will be in a state of health, and you will shine that biophotonic light. You will shine that spirit through you more effectively. It'll be a clear lens, a clear transmission. Have you ever been tuning a radio, and you're getting like, and then you get little bits here and there? That's what a lot of people are communicating. That's the energy most people are putting out because they're not taking care of their house. This body is a gift. It's not to be repressed. It's not to be looked at as, oh, your body's evil. Ignore all your primal instincts and just go and meditate on a mountaintop. That's crap. Your body's amazing. The Egyptians looked at it as a gift. They had hieroglyphics to worship the body in a positive way. Take care of your body. We're going to be going to lunch soon. Think about this when you order your lunch. You got to get into Wilhelm Reich. You got to look up this man's work and understand what he was talking about when he was talking about somatic intelligence. Somatic intelligence, the intelligence of the body, the understanding that your body is a brain. It thinks and feels. It's what's contributing most of your emotional energy and most of the energy you're putting out all of the time. And what happens is it ends up being suppressed a lot in our day. Allow it to be what it is, but you have to discipline your emotions. You have to discipline your body through some kind of training. I don't care if it's martial arts, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's a sport that you enjoy, something that you can be passionate about. Get up in the morning and don't just crawl out of bed and laying around the house for a while until you get your head right. Get up and move the body. Movement. All of a sudden you're going to have amazing ideas, you're going to feel motivated, your day's going to start to kick ass. You're going to live your day as a victor instead of a victim. Do you understand this? Mushin, I can't break this down now, but Mushin just simply means no mind in Japanese culture. But it's a misunderstanding. It doesn't mean that there's no thoughts taking place. It means no part of your mind is getting in the way of the action that you're trying to do, or the expression you're trying to engage in. Or if you're writing beautiful calligraphy, you don't want your mind drifting off all the time. So no mind. Too many mind we have. No mind. That's how you become effective. Alan Watts says, we all need to go out of our minds at least once a day. By going out of our minds, we will quickly come to our senses. Love that, man. On spirit. I promise I'm almost done. Nature is visible spirit. Spirit is invisible nature. Nature is visible spirit. Spirit is invisible nature. They are one and the same, but unique. And they are on different ends of the spectrum. If you contemplate this and go for a walk in the park, find some nature, and just think about this, what Schelling was talking about here, your mind will be blown. Do it. Recommend it. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that being what they're finding now in modern physics? The further they're looking in with a microscope down to the cellular, atomic, and subatomic level, and the more that they're looking out into the universe, the more they're starting to see the same stuff. You start comparing brain neurons with galaxies and star clusters and the iris with what we're seeing in our cosmos. And you'll start to understand. This isn't about understanding oneness. Not oneness, but wholeness. A connection to the all, to the great, to the Brahman. There are many ancient ways of cultivating this awareness. In martial arts, kata, movement, sacred geometry through movement. Some amazing pieces of wisdom. Walter Russell talking about the electric energy which motivates us is not within our bodies at all. It is part of the universal supply which flows through us from the universal source with an intensity set by our desires and our will. That's, yes, awesome. Don't think you are. Know you are. You've got to let it all go. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind. Free your mind. And I'm going to finish with a rousing warrior battle cry that comes from the Icelandic tradition to let you continue to be a victor in your day. I love this. I read it regularly. It really pumps me up, and I hope it pumps you up too. Arise, for after 1,000 years, the seed of the tree that was home has taken root and sprouted. Arise, for through your kinsmen stand strong in the shield wall. More might is yet needed upon the field. Arise, for the weights of the field, stream and stone, seek to reforge the bonds that have long been broken. Arise, for 1,000 generations of ancestors stand firmly behind you throughout every success and failure. Arise, for the gods have sounded their call across the worlds, and you have heard it deep within your heart. Arise. Your infinite potential awaits you. Thank you very much.
David Whitehead.